Also joining us by phone is Jared Ricks, the Regional Coordinator for the Idaho State Public Defense Commission from Eastern Idaho. Welcome, Jared.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you allowing me to meet with you.
Our pleasure. And Scott Ness is joining us. Scott Nuss, forgive me, is joining us, who manages our contract defense attorneys, and of course, Ann Taylor, our public defender. So without any further delay, we'll take our first item, fiscal year 20 annual review. Who's going to lead us off?
I think
Jared?
If I may.
Please.
This is Jared. I am the one that sent the topics that the commission asked me to speak with you about. And so I think that when I saw the agenda, everything that I saw in there were things that the commission had asked me to discuss with Kootenai County. So, well, with all the counties. But so if you'd like, I can lead, or I can answer questions if you have any about any of those topics.
Why don't you just lead us off, and maybe that'll cue us in for some questions. How's that?
Okay, thank you very much. So regarding the annual review, Mr. Freudenthal did the annual review. Aaron should have submitted that to your county in the middle of April. I guess the first thing that I would like to check on, I'd like to make certain that your county received copies of the annual review, that you had a chance to review it. If in reviewing that you had any questions at all, I'd like to try to answer those questions. If I can't answer any of your questions, if there are any questions I can't answer today, I'll track down the answers and I'll get back to you. I know I'm not as familiar with your county as I would like to be,
Sure.
But do you have any questions regarding that annual review report that was submitted?
Yes.
Jared, just grab the mic.
Jared, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. This is Ann Taylor. The question that I would have for you about the annual review is, why are we marked non-compliant vertically?
That was mine. Jared, did you hear Ann's question?
Vertical representation.
Yes.
I did. So why Aaron marked you as non-compliant regarding vertical representation?
That's correct.
Is that the question, Ann?
We didn't catch that. Say that again.
So just to make sure that I'm hearing the question correctly, is why Aaron marked that you were non-compliant in vertical representation. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So unfortunately, I hate to start off right away with a question that I don't know enough about to be able to answer it. I saw the annual review report just briefly after the meeting was scheduled, and if you'll bear with me, I'll pull it up here really quick, and we'll take a look at that and see if I can give you a more specific answer. So, and while I'm looking at this, one thing that I would remind you is that mark of noncompliance, that is Aaron's recommendation to the commission. The commission has not made a finding of noncompliance yet. So just to make certain that you do understand that that's only Aaron's recommendation.
Thank you. That
Just have a question. Why isn't Aaron available?
So Aaron has quit. He's left the Public Defense Commission. Jared, I understand how the annual review works, and that is the recommendation of the annual review that we be found non-compliant for vertical representation. And I understand that the next step would be for the commission itself to vote and accept that. And I think I even understand what I could do to ask to be heard on that after the fact. I'm trying to understand why I'm marked non-compliant, though, before we get to that point.
And as I am reading Aaron's notes here, I'll be honest with you, based on the annual review alone, I don't understand why he marked a finding of noncompliance there either. So if he was referencing other information, or if there's some other reason that he was looking at in making his recommendation, it doesn't appear that in that report he references that or does anything to point to that. And so I guess the best that I can do is, can I look into this further and get back to you? I don't have a good answer for you on that today. I don't know if he checked the wrong box or if there's something that was looking at or thinking of that he did not reference in the report.
Jared, that's just fine to get back to us. Thank you for being willing to look into it.
Not a problem.
Do we have any other questions based on?
No.
No, okay. So nothing further on the annual review? Okay.
Okay.
So we can move on. Go ahead, Jared, go right ahead, sir.
I apologize. One thing that COVID has taught me is that I apparently struggle with phone etiquette, and I thought I learned this in childhood, but I'm still struggling, it sounds like. But with regard to, so this is related to the annual review, but I just wanted to, since it's in one of the other agenda items as well, I thought I should find out if you had any questions about it. So last year, there was an IDAPA provision that came into effect regarding written contracts between counties and defending attorneys. This year, that became enforceable, and so it was talked about in the annual review this time. Aaron indicated in the report that he had looked at your contract, that it looked good to him, that during the annual review, it was discussed that if there was anything that was missing, it would be the county's intention during the next contracting period to remedy that at that time. According to Aaron's notes in the report, there were just two provisions that were missing. IDAPA 610106 or 03, I apologize, 610103 requires that there be provisions regarding the establishment and maintenance of records and how long defending attorneys, specifically contract defending attorneys, are required to keep those records. So in your case, it would apply to the conflict attorneys. But then in addition, that there be a provision which it's called right of inspection, but to clarify, it's not a right of inspection to look into the attorney's files to view confidential information regarding clients or client communications, but essentially to look at attorney records to ensure that the attorney is being compliant with the terms of their contract with the county. And so those were the two provisions that Aaron indicated he did not see in the contract. Do you have any questions about IDAPA 610103 or how that relates to the contracts?
Scott, didn't we address this when this came out? I remember talking to Leanna about this, and it was, my memory says it was just a couple simple fixes that we took care of. Yeah. Yeah, so I've got the conflict attorney director here, and I believe we took care of that missing piece there. So I can do a little bit more research into it as well if you didn't get the backup documents to the fixes.
You know what, that would be great. If you've already fixed it, if you could get that to us, and we'll just mark that as complete now, but that would be great. Regardless, even if it is not yet fixed and it will just be fixed at the next contracting period, this is not something that affects eligibility for financial assistance and things. So just to make that clear, but if you've already taken care of it, if you could get that to me, that would be wonderful, and then I can make note of that.
Sure. I'll check into that.
Okay. There are only a couple of items, is that correct? Dealing with the whole subject of record retention?
Yeah, it's just, I think the issue is compliance with the duration required so that the historical records are available if needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jared. Did you have anything further on the fiscal year 20 annual review?
No, sir, I do not. If you don't have any other questions for me, I do not have anything further.
Are we okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, so why don't we move on to our second item, explanation of the extraordinary litigation fund.
Okay, thank you. So we want to make sure as much as anything at this point in time that counties are aware that the extraordinary litigation fund is ongoing. It is still funded for disbursement for those extraordinary expenses throughout the state. It is going to function much as it has in the past. And I'm sure Aaron has talked to you about the extraordinary litigation fund previously, but it will still be a either financial hardship or extraordinary need-based program. It will require that the county resources are essentially looked at first before applying to the PDC for that funding. I guess for Ann's office, I guess it would be to use the resources that are available to her. For conflict attorneys, it would be to essentially look at filing a 12.2 motion with the court to seek funds for witnesses or investigators. And I guess I'm assuming at this moment that that is how it is done for the conflict attorneys in Kootenai County. If it's not, you can disregard that. But we just wanted to make sure that you know that the fund is still available. It is still there. And if you have any questions regarding the Extraordinary Litigation Fund, I've been asked to inquire and attempt to answer them if you have questions.
Jared, this is Ann again. You said something that I need to have you clarify. You mentioned that out of the public defender office budget that we would fund something with conflict lawyers, and I'm not following.
So if that's what I said, I apologize. That's not what was in my mind. So I was essentially just stating that because you are a county office, your procedure is probably different. I know you have investigators on staff. You have budget items that not knowing the in-depth function of how that works there, I'm guessing you have discretion over how that budget is used for the cases in your office. And I was actually trying to distinguish between your office and conflict attorneys. Not that conflict attorneys have access to your budget. Does that make sense, Ann?
Yes, that clears it up. Thank you. I was worried Scott was going to start spreading my phone number. I have a question about the ELF funding, though. In the past, my office has asked for ELF funding for kind of a case that has a unique or significant situation that's going to be quite expensive. Sometimes we've been awarded the ELF funding, and sometimes we have not. And in the past, it's been my understanding that it's fine to apply even if I have budget left. And the reason I would do that is so that my budget continues to work throughout the year. But if I have a case that has something very unique to it, I'd like to access ELF funding. Is that something I can still do?
To the best of my knowledge, Ann, it is. You can still apply. It will still probably trigger follow-up questions and somebody that would be calling you to try to figure out exactly what's going on, what the status of your budget is, why it's necessary to apply regardless of your budget and things. But there's nothing in the policy that I am aware of that prohibits you from applying even though you have budget left. It may trigger some questions, but you can still apply.
Thank you. I'm okay answering questions. I appreciate that.
Anything further on ELF?
Nope.
Thank you, Jared. Item number 3, indigent defense financial assistance application. Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you. So the form that we used for the Indigent Defense Financial Assistance application looked different this year. I was just directed to ask, and I don't know who from your county is involved in filling that out, and I'm happy to make a phone call if I need to speak to others. But we are just wondering if the county had any feedback for us on the form, if it was better or worse, or anything that you want to see changed on that form.
Sure, Jared, we have Dena Darrow here. She's our finance director, and she can speak to that.
Go ahead, Dena.
Hi, Jared. So my feedback would be just maybe a little bit better descriptions of what's required, and then maybe solidify the form year over year, maybe find something that works. It feels like it's kind of changing every year, so we want to make sure that we're capturing the information correctly, and that, you know, what we're including is what you want to see. So just maybe clarifying the instructions so that we're sure that we're including numbers we're supposed to and not including things that we shouldn't.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I can respond in part to that as well, and I appreciate your feedback. I apologize. I'm trying to type your comment here to make sure I can pass that on. The form, I believe that in general, the structure of the form that was used this year will probably remain the same moving forward. That's the understanding that I have been given. The form will continue to change a little bit year from year or year to year, just based on the fact that the way that Idaho Code 19862A is set up is that it requires the application to be tied directly to the indigent defense standards that are in effect at the time. And so every year, until things are done, at least, or stabilized for a number of years, that form will change as we negotiate new standards, and they, by statute, are required to be included in that form. So we're hoping that, at least as far as the big change in format between, specifically, I know we had a member of our staff who revamped the application last year, and it was decided that that format would be used. And so it looked significantly different last year from this year and from the year before. But I believe that the format this year will be the general format moving forward, but it will continue to change as questions are added and things, and until we get the rest of the rules negotiated, if that makes sense. But I thank you very much for the feedback, and we are working on trying to improve the instructions and get this so that we can capture things as needed.
Thank you.
Is that it on financial assistance application? I guess so. Okay. So we'll move on to item 4, upcoming 2020 negotiated rulemaking meetings. Proceed, Jared, please.
Thank you. So I was just asked to make sure that we notified the county that we will be proceeding with negotiated rulemaking this year. It will look different than it has looked in the past. It will be something that we will be doing through Zoom, I believe, is my understanding of the application that is likely to be used. But please watch your emails for invitations to participate in that process. They should be coming soon, listing the dates and times of the negotiated rulemaking meetings. And I know Kootenai County has participated in the past, and we'd encourage you to continue to participate so that we can get feedback and get guidance from counties to make sure that the rules that are drafted and created are rules that make sense for Idaho. So I wish I had a date that I could tell you right now as to when those invitations would be coming, but they should be coming soon.
Okay. Do you know, it's Leslie, do you know if the principles will be the same as last year, or are you going to forget those principles and move on to different ones?
So we are not going to forget those principles. We will be continuing the discussion from last year on the ones that we did not finalize last year.
Okay.
Okay. Scott, any questions? Ann?
General questions? Are we there?
Not yet.
Not yet, but we will be shortly. Okay. All right, so we kind of covered number 5, the IDAPA. Jared, did you want to say anything further on that, on the county defense attorney contracts? We covered that, I believe. We just had those minor changes. Okay. Why don't we move on to item 6 then? Defense investigators and expert witnesses.
So when I sent this, I had stated in the email that I sent that this topic may not be necessary, but I didn't know at the time that when I was sending the email. I will let you know it's not a necessary topic that I need to discuss with you, but if you have any questions about PDC standards as they relate to that, I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Ann, Scott, anything?
Not at this time on that.
Oh, I think we're good, Jared.
Okay.
And our final item is training for public defenders.
So the only thing, this is part that much of what I would have discussed, depending on what I knew at the time when I sent that, I don't need to discuss with you. However, one thing that I can let you know, and this should be of interest to Ann and Scott, I would think, hopefully within the next couple of weeks here, we will be starting a webinar series. It will be a monthly webinar. It is scheduled to be a lunch hour webinar, which I know for your time zone could potentially create problems. As they were setting it up and as they've been negotiating that, they've been talking about trying to perhaps float the times they do it to accommodate lunch hours throughout the state at times and rotate around, but I don't know what they'll decide to do. But there will be one hour long CLE a month that they can participate in as members of the public defense roster. They can participate for free. So it will enable them to get 12 credits a year, not only that satisfy our standards, but they will also be pre-approved by the state bar. So I know the state bar does have limits on self-study. They'll be able to get credits, as I understand it, for self-study as well, but if they can't log on for the live portion, they can get credits for the self-study. But regardless of whether they're there live or doing the program or watching the program after the fact, they can get credit for our standards through that as well. So I just wanted to let you as a county, let your attorneys know that is coming. And hopefully that will help fill some of the void from all the canceled trainings based on COVID as well. But do you have any questions for me about PDC trainings?
I do, Jared. This is Ann. Will the PDC be putting together a list of approved trainings for that 7 hours that's required to stay on the active PDC roster?
So as far as approved trainings, we have talked a lot about that, about trying to get a list of approved trainings in advance. As far as the credits that we offer through the webinar, they will all be approved for that. We are trying to get communication on a better basis with the state bar so that we know what upcoming trainings are being run through the bar or through people that have applied for credit through the bar so that we can make decisions as well about whether those will be approved. Right now, it doesn't resolve getting state bar credit, but one thing that I can let you know is that as members of the roster, you're already eligible for a free membership in NAPD. They have the My Gideon webinar library on the NAPD website, and the vast majority of those programs are approved for credit for the roster. They're not approved for credit for the state bar, but as you participate or if you watch those videos, as long as they're not dealing with the substantive law of another jurisdiction, so as long as they're not dealing with, driving while intoxicated in Maryland or something like that, all the general skills courses, the general information about criminal defense, those are all going to be approved, and they have a really large library, but those are all essentially pre-approved. And if you're logging on and looking at those, if you ever have a question, if there's one you want to watch and you have a question about it as to whether it's approved or not, you can shoot me an email, or until you get your new regional coordinator up there, at least you can shoot me an email, or you could email Kathleen as well, and we'll get back to you and let you know. But if it's off the NAPD website, chances are pretty high that it's already been approved.
So the PDC does not have a restriction on if all 7 credits are webinars, right?
We do not. That's correct.
Do you know if the Idaho Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys regional seminars in the fall will be approved? We always have one here in Coeur d'Alene, and that's been extended so it covers the 7 hours, and it's live, so it would also work for bar credits too. Will that remain on the approved list?
If it's been approved in the past, chances are pretty high. You know, when those are upcoming, if you want to know in advance, if you even want to send me the agenda or send it to Kathleen, and we'll get an answer before the training and let you know, so that you don't have to run the risk of participating to get the credit if you would not have otherwise participated and then finding out you can't get the credit. But if it's been approved in the past, I can tell you that the likelihood that it will be pre-approved would probably be pretty high. For us, it's a matter of knowing when they're occurring, which that's the first I've heard about that, Ann. But if you get me the agenda, I'm happy to take a look at it, and we can discuss it as a staff and get you an answer before it occurs.
Okay, it'll be probably in late August or September. As soon as they start planning it, I'll let you know.
So,
We all set there
On that question.
on that question? Okay, so Ann, you had some other questions, and we do have a public comment period. We're all members of the public. Go right ahead.
Now I'm trying to remember my questions. Jared, do you know when the grant will be decided, so we might know if we've been awarded the grant for this year?
So my understanding is right now the commission is trying to, and I guess it's, and I'm going to stammer here a little bit. It's always tricky when we're instituting a new procedure, but we did change the procedure a little bit. The commission is authorized to form subcommittees out of the commission members. They've done that this year. That subcommittee is looking at the applications so that they have time to meet and go through the applications on a more detailed basis than what the commission meetings have allowed for in the past. My understanding is they'll be doing that here within the next several weeks, going through that in the hopes that they can get answers out after the July meeting. But that's my understanding of when it should be. I don't know if the commission will have additional questions. Given the way that it's been the last couple of years with the commission having additional questions, I would anticipate the likelihood of there being follow-up questions will be pretty high. But once they ask those questions, whether that goes out and comes back in time to make decisions in July, I don't know, but they're working on it right now, and it may be as early as the July meeting, which I believe is scheduled for July 16th, but you should have heard from the commission long before July 16th. If there are additional questions.
All right, thank you. That answers my question on that. I have a question on the negotiated rulemaking. You stated that would be by Zoom. The participation that we can have, will we be allowed to be able to see and be seen and comment?
You should be able to. That is my understanding, that you'll be able to give feedback and participation so that we can get the information from you. So that's my understanding, Ann. Different than a commission meeting. When a commission meeting is held that is not a public hearing, because of the open meeting laws, they shut down the comment function and things. But as far as the negotiated rulemaking meetings, we're hoping that it works very much the way that it would work if we were meeting in person. As far as being able to get feedback and comments, it's just going to be conducted electronically and through Zoom. But depending on how many people attend, I am just guessing here, but I think there's probably a possibility that the length of comments could be limited, but it depends on participation and how many people want to comment and things as well. But my understanding is you'll be allowed to make comments, Ann.
Okay. Probably my last question then is about the Public Defense Commission meetings that happen monthly. I noticed in the past there was a time for public comment in those, and recently there's been no time allowed for public comment. And additionally, when I participate by Zoom, I wouldn't have the ability to comment even if I wanted to. Do you know if that's going to change back to the way it was when we had the option for public comment?
And that I don't know, Ann. That's something I would need to follow up on and get back to you. I don't know on that.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Thanks for indulging my questions.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jared? Any other comment? Okay, Jared, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. One thing that I would throw out there, yes, I know they're working to hire someone else to work with North Idaho. In the meantime, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. I know I'm a long ways away, but I am available by phone and email, and I'm happy to help you any way I can.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Okay, then, so the time is now 2:33, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.